Hi everyone, welcome back to Active Mobility Online with me, Coach Garrett. We're going to talk about the most important athletic position. Part 1, technique. So what is the most important athletic position? In my opinion, it is standing. A long tradition of standing practice, known in various ways throughout the world. It's something we do a lot during the day, whether we're working on a desk. Please tell me you're working at a standing desk. Too much time sitting is bad for you. I'll just go ahead and say it. Working at a standing desk, holding our kids, and then anytime we're exercising, if you really think about it, the start and finish of a lot of our exercises are going to be standing. So a question I want you to ask yourself is, do you have a technique for standing? We have techniques for all sorts of different exercises: squat, bench press, deadlift, running, etc., etc. Do you have a technique for standing? If not, keep watching. I think it is important to have a technique for standing. Why? So I'm going to talk a lot about organizing your spine. So if we don't organize our spine, we don't have some technique for coming to a nice organized spine and supporting that spine, we end up with a disorganized spine. And we might still be able to use our abdominal muscles to get tight around that, but a disorganized brace will result from having no technique, and that's going to be less good than an organized brace. If you are potentially moving to an end range at the spine, you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on the bones of the spine, pinching things in between the bones of the spine, and that's not good either. You may also find yourself moving your spine under a load. So the spine is pretty strong if it's held together well, but it's not great at taking a force and moving with that force applied to it. There are some exceptions to that, but otherwise not generally thought of as a good idea. The other thought is just it's unintentional. If you have no idea of a technique for standing, then you're just doing whatever the default is, not being intentional about the movement. Probably being intentional about the position where the movement is going to be better than being unintentional. There are some major benefits to thinking about a way to organize and support your spine. First one is you're going to be able to output a lot more power. If your spine is supported, your body will say, all right, we're safe, let's do this. Your brain is going to allow more power to go to the muscles. And the second big one is safety, both in the short term, not injuring yourself on a single exercise acutely, or long term, less wear and tear on the spine, less sort of chronic things popping up as you get older. So I'm going to talk a little bit about spinal organizing technique. Okay, so when we think about a technique for standing, what we're really talking about is a way to organize the spine and support it with the abdominal muscles. A way that we talk about that sometimes is a thing called the bracing sequence. I first heard about that from Dr. Starrett. I kind of have made my own little take on it with some alterations. So we're going to practice the bracing sequence, which is essentially a technique for standing. I like to start with 3 things to sort of set the stage. First thing, feet forward. Whether you're in a wide stance or a narrower stance for your particular activity, getting your feet as close to forward as you can is generally a good idea and is going to transfer well to various things. Doesn't mean you always have to have feet directly forward, but especially in practicing standing, let's try to have our feet more or less straight forward. Second thing is stretching up tall through the crown of the head. That's going to help lengthen the entire body. It's going to pull the chin back, and it's going to get your spine roughly into those neutral curves that your spine is supposed to have. It's not supposed to be straight or flat back. We're supposed to respect those curves. Thinking about stretching up tall tends to get us there. Third thing is shoulders back and down. So we can just kind of try to pull our shoulders back and down. Sometimes doing a big roll helps to get some of the muscles out of the way, get the shoulder blades to come together and squeeze down the back. So again, feet forward, thinking about pulling the chin back as you stretch up towards the ceiling with the crown of your head, and then shoulders back and down. That's going to get us pretty close to those neutral curves of the spine. So that's setting the stage. Now we're talking about the actual bracing sequence. So step 1, once you've sort of set the stage, is going to be activating the glutes. When you activate the glutes, you want to think about screwing your feet into the floor and lifting as opposed to really cranking your hips forward. So activating the glutes, screwing the feet into the floor should bring your pelvis to neutral. So if you have a tendency to have your butt hang back or a tendency to have your butt hang forward, activating the glutes, screwing the feet into the floor should bring your pelvis just to neutral. You can get pretty tight with that squeeze. That's going to really help neutralize pelvis and low back. Second thing we're going to do after that is we're going to take a deep breath in, relaxing the abdomen and all these muscles. We're going to want to tighten them later. Sometimes releasing those muscles then helps us to activate them a little bit better. So activate the glutes, screw your feet into the floor, deep breath in, relaxing. And then the third step is going to be an exhale, and then we're really getting tight, bracing through the midsection, drawing everything towards the navel, hugging the spine in with the muscles of the abdomen, especially the circle of muscles called the transverse abdominis. It's like a belt. We want to cinch that thing down, getting everything tight and close to the spine while increasing that pressure. So again, once we've set the stage, feet forward, stretch up tall, shoulders down and back, engage the glutes, screw the feet into the floor, deep breath in, relax, exhale, brace, shrink wrapping everything into place with the core. You can create a lot of pressure that way. For just your average day-to-day standing, you might not need maximum pressure. You might need about 20% pressure to sort of hold things together. But you'll sort of learn to turn that on and off, or use just the amount of pressure that you need the more you practice that. In the next two videos, I'll talk about some drills to get better and better at that bracing sequence, and then I'll talk about some things we can do mobility-wise to counteract some of our sort of postural things that keep us from feeling really comfortable in those standing positions.